Life changes in a single moment you decide to move. Back in 1975, I met a young man named Robert who stood in my office, his hands shaking as he held his resignation letter. He had worked at the same factory for 15 years, and now at age 35, he wanted to start his own business. "I've been holding this letter for 6 months," he told me, his voice barely a whisper. "Every morning I tell myself today's the day, and every evening I take it back home." You know that feeling, don't you? That weight in your stomach when you stand at the edge of something important. That voice in your head listing all the reasons why you should wait, why you should plan more, why you should play it safe. I see that same fear in the eyes of every person who comes to me seeking guidance. It's not just your fear, it's the universal human experience of standing at the threshold of change. But let me tell you what happened to Robert. After our conversation, he finally handed in that letter. Today, his company employs over 200 people. The difference between his success and 15 years of hesitation came down to one moment. The moment he decided to take that first step. Time is the most precious currency we have, and waiting is the most expensive thing you can do with it. Every day you wait is a day of opportunity lost forever. I've watched people spend years preparing for something they could have started today. They wait for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, the ideal conditions. But here's the truth I've learned over my years of studying success. Those perfect conditions never arrive. 1 year from today, you will wish you had started today. 5 years from now, you'll look back at this moment. Would you see it as the day everything changed, or just another day you chose to wait? Let me tell you something about first steps that might surprise you. In all my years of studying successful people, I've noticed that the size of the step never matters. It's the act of stepping that changes everything. You see, your mind works like a powerful machine, but it has one interesting quirk. We can't tell the difference between a small step and a giant leap. Once you're in motion, everything changes. A rocket launch? Did you know that a rocket uses more fuel in the first few minutes of launch than it does traveling thousands of miles through space? The hardest part isn't the journey, it's breaking free from the ground. Your first step works exactly the same way. Once you overcome that initial resistance, maintaining momentum becomes natural. I remember talking to a brain scientist in 1982. He explained something fascinating about how our minds work. When we face a new challenge, our brains release chemicals that make us feel uncomfortable. It's not just in your head. Your body is actually trying to protect you from what it sees as danger. But here's the incredible part. The moment you take action, different chemicals flood your system. Courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about understanding that this discomfort is just your body getting ready for action. Let me share a truth that took me years to understand. This feeling of being overwhelmed isn't a sign that you're not ready. It's proof that you're about to grow. Every person who ever achieved anything worthwhile felt exactly what you're feeling right now. Look at Henry Ford. When he first talked about making cars for everyday people, experts laughed at him. They said it was impossible. But Ford didn't try to build his entire company in one day. He started with one simple step, designing a single engine. That one step led to another, and another, until he had revolutionized transportation forever. Or consider Catherine Parker, a woman I met in 1979. She was a single mother with 3 kids and a dream of becoming a doctor. Everyone told her it was impossible. Instead of looking at the entire mountain she had to climb. Years of school, massive student loans, juggling family and studies. She focused on one step, enrolling in a single night class. Today, she runs her own medical practice, having helped thousands of patients. She didn't start by trying to become a doctor. She started by filling out one application form. The most powerful truth about first steps is this usually, they don't need to be perfect. In fact, they rarely are. When Alexander Graham Bell made his first telephone call, the sound was barely audible. When the Wright brothers first flew, they stayed in the air for just 12 seconds. But these imperfect first steps changed the world. You might be thinking, but what if I take the wrong first step? Let me tell you something important. There's no such thing as a wrong first step. Every action you take gives you information you couldn't have gotten any other way. Even steps in the wrong direction teach you something valuable about which direction is right. Watch thousands of people transform their lives. And here's what I've noticed. Those who succeed aren't smarter or more talented than others. They're simply the ones who understand that while the path ahead might be uncertain, standing still guarantees nothing changes. They are the ones who know that an imperfect step forward beats a perfect step that's never taken. Water's starting to boil. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. The water gets warmer and warmer, but you see no change. Then, right at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, everything transforms. Your first step is like that final degree. It might look small, but it's the difference between water and steam, between standing still and soaring ahead. Let me tell you about something that happened in 1978. I sat across from a talented artist named Sarah who hadn't picked up a paintbrush in 7 years. "I'm not good enough," she told me. "There are so many better artists out there." As she spoke, I pulled out a piece of paper and drew a line down the middle. "Let's do something," I said. "On one side, write down what's actually stopping you from painting. On the other side, write what you think is stopping you." After 15 minutes, something remarkable happened. The actual obstacles took up 3 lines. No dedicated workspace, expensive art supplies, and limited time with 2 young children. But the thinking side? It filled the entire page with things like "not talented enough," "too old to start again," "people will laugh." That's when Sarah understood. Her biggest barriers weren't in the world around her. They were in her mind. Here's what I've learned after decades of studying human potential. Your mind creates elaborate stories about why you can't succeed. These stories feel real. They feel solid. But they're just thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. The walls in your mind are made of smoke. They look solid until you walk right through them. Let me share with you the 3 most common mental barriers I've seen, and more importantly, how to break through them. First, there's the "I'm not ready" barrier. Your mind tells you that you need more preparation, more knowledge, more experience. But here's the truth. Nobody ever feels completely ready. The most successful people I've met didn't wait until they were ready. They got ready by taking action. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No amount of studying bicycle theory can replace the experience of actually getting on the bike. The second barrier is the "what if" trap. Your mind becomes an expert at creating worst-case scenarios. What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I lose everything? But let me ask you something. What if you succeed? What if this decision becomes the best one you've ever made? What if, years from now, people ask you how you achieved so much, and your answer is, "I started when I wasn't sure I could do it"? The third barrier is the comparison loop. You look at others who are where you want to be and think, "Could never do that." But here's what you don't see. You're comparing your first step to someone else's 100th step. Every expert started as a beginner. Every success story has a first page. Now let me give you practical tools to break through these barriers. I've seen these work time and time again with thousands of people. The 5-minute rule. When you feel resistance to starting something, tell yourself you'll do it for just 5 minutes. Your mind can handle 5 minutes of anything. Once you start, something magical happens. Momentum takes over. I've watched people use this rule to write books, start businesses, and transform their health. 5 minutes becomes 10, becomes an hour, becomes a lifetime of change. The mirror question, whenever you face a mental barrier, ask yourself, would I let my best friend talk to themselves this way? Usually, the answer is no. We're often harder on ourselves than we would be on anyone else. Start treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show a friend taking their first steps toward a goal. The future letter. Write a letter from your future self, dated 1 year from today, thanking your present self for taking action despite your fears. Make it specific. What changed? How does it feel? What doors opened? Because you decided to start. This exercise shows your mind what's possible. There's something crucial to understand just right before you break through them. It's like a rubber band. The resistance is greatest just before it snaps. When you feel that strong pull holding you back, it's not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're about to break free. Remember Sarah, the artist I mentioned? 2 weeks after our conversation, she set up a small painting corner in her laundry room. She started painting for 30 minutes while her kids napped. Today, her work hangs in galleries across 3 states. The actual obstacles, she solved them one by one. The mental barriers, they disappeared the moment she picked up her brush. Your mind will always create reasons why now isn't the right time. But time passes anyway. 3 months, 6 months, a year from now. That time will pass whether you take action or not. The only question is, where do you want to be when it does? Let me tell you about something remarkable. He observed in 1983, I watched a man named Michael teach his son to ride a skateboard. The boy was terrified at first, clutching his father's hand. But after the first successful push, something changed. Each small movement forward built his confidence. By the end of the hour, you couldn't stop him from rolling up and down the sidewalk. That's the power of momentum. One small success creates energy for the next. The same principle works in every area of life. You call it the momentum effect. Once you understand it, you'll never look at taking action the same way again. You see, success isn't about making one big leap. It's about creating a series of small wins that build unstoppable momentum. Pushing a car, the hardest part isn't keeping it moving, it's getting it to move that first inch. Once it's rolling, it becomes easier and easier. Your goals work exactly the same way. The hardest push will always be the first one, but each action afterward becomes progressively easier. Let me share something fascinating about momentum that most people don't realize. Every time you take action, you're not just moving toward your goal. You're literally rewiring your brain. Each small win releases chemicals that make you feel more capable, more confident. It's like your mind keeps a scorecard of your successes, no matter how small, and uses them as evidence that you can handle bigger challenges. I remember talking to a woman named Patricia in 1987. She wanted to lose 100 pounds, but felt overwhelmed by the goal. So we started small, walking to her mailbox and back each day. Just the mailbox sounds too simple, doesn't it? But here's what happened. After a week of successful mailbox walks, she felt confident enough to walk to the end of her street. Then around the block. 6 months later, she completed her first 5K walk. Today, she's a marathon runner. Patricia didn't just build physical strength. She built confidence through consistent small wins. Each day, she proved to herself that she could do what she said she would do. That's the compound effect of action. Like interest in a bank account, small actions compound over time to create remarkable results. Here's a truth about momentum that took me years to understand. It doesn't care how small you start. It only cares that you start and keep going. I've watched people transform their lives, starting with actions so small they seemed meaningless at the time. 5 minutes of reading each day, one phone call to a potential client, writing one paragraph. These tiny actions seem insignificant in a moment, but they create ripples that turn into waves. Let me give you 3 principles of momentum that I've seen work time and time again. First, momentum feeds on consistency, not intensity. You'll build more momentum doing something small every day than doing something big once a month. Think about it like rolling a snowball down a hill. The steady accumulation of snow matters more than occasional big pushes. Second, momentum creates its own motivation. Most people wait to feel motivated before taking action. But here's the secret. Motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. Once you're in motion, your mind wants to keep you in motion. Third, momentum eliminates procrastination. When you're moving forward, even slowly, you stop overthinking. Your mind shifts from should I do this to what's next. It's like swimming in a cold pool. Once you're moving, you stop thinking about the temperature. Here's something vital about momentum that most people misses. It works in reverse too. Every time you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, you're building negative momentum. Every delay makes the next delay easier to justify. That's why starting now, even with the smallest step, is so crucial. I watched a man named James use this principle to build $1 million business. He didn't start with big plans or fancy strategies. He started by making one sales call every morning before breakfast. Just one call. Some calls lasted 30 seconds. Most led nowhere. But he made them consistently. That single action created momentum that shaped his entire day. One call became 3 calls. 3 calls became 10. Within a year, he had to hire staff to handle the volume of business. Remember to ask for your background, your education, or your past failures. You'd only ask what you're willing to do today, right now, to move forward. And here's the beautiful thing about momentum. It takes the same amount of energy to build whether your goal is small or large. The force that gets a small ball rolling can start an avalanche. Every person I've ever seen achieve something remarkable understood this principle. The size of your first step doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact that you take it and then another and another. Each step builds energy for the next one. Each small win creates confidence for a bigger win. I'm about to share something with you that has helped thousands of people turn their dreams into reality. In 1985, I worked with a group of 100 people who all had different goals: starting businesses, writing books, changing careers. 1 year later, only 12 had achieved what they set out to do. The difference wasn't talent or luck. It was something simpler and more powerful. They had a clear action plan and followed it without fail. Let me show you how to create an action plan that actually works. Not the kind that sits in a drawer collecting dust, but one that moves you forward every single day. The secret lies in understanding that a good plan isn't about perfection. It's about progress. First, let's talk about what I call the success hour. This is the first hour of your day, and how you use it will determine everything that follows. You see, most people make the mistake of leaving their most important actions to chance, hoping they'll find time during the day. But hope isn't a strategy. Your success hour is sacred time, set aside before the world starts making demands on you. Let me tell you about Tom, a factory worker who wanted to start his own business. Every morning at 5 a.m., before his regular job, he spent 1 hour working on his dream. No phone calls, no emails, no distractions. Just focused action on one specific task. Within 18 months, his side business made more than his full-time job. Today, he employs 30 people. The success hour made all the difference. Now, here's how to break down any goal into manageable pieces. I call this the 5-box method. Take a sheet of paper and draw 5 boxes. In the last box, write your ultimate goal. Working backwards, fill each box with a milestone that must happen before you can reach the next level. Each box should represent about 90 days of focused work. For example, if your goal is to start a consulting business, your boxes might look like this: profitable consulting business with 10 regular clients. First 3 paying clients and proven service model. Website launched and marketing materials ready. Rack stewardess, packages defined. Market research completed and target audience identified. This method works because it turns a big, scary goal into a series of clear, manageable steps. You're no longer trying to climb a mountain in one leap. You're taking it one camp at a time. There's something crucial about action plans that most people miss. They must be measurable in simple yes/no terms. Don't write work on business. Write make 5 sales calls before 9 a.m. Don't write exercise more. Write walk for 20 minutes before breakfast. Your mind needs clarity to create action. Let me share 3 powerful tools for maintaining momentum once you've started. Each evening, write down the 3 most important actions you'll take tomorrow. Not 10 things, not 5. 3, these actions should directly move you toward your goal. Make them small enough to complete but significant enough to matter. Tom, the factory worker I mentioned, used this method religiously. His daily 3 might be make 2 sales calls, write 1 page of his business plan, and read 1 article about his industry. The accountability mirror. Every morning, stand in front of your mirror and make a promise out loud about what you'll accomplish today. It sounds simple, maybe even silly, but there's power in looking yourself in the eye and making a commitment. I've seen this technique transform people's follow. The right from teen to eat a progress way. We create a visible record of your actions. Get a calendar and mark every day you take action with a big red X. After a few days, you'll have a chain. Your only job is to not break the chain. This visual reminder of your commitment becomes surprisingly motivating. Support systems. No significant achievement happens in isolation. You need 3 types of people in your corner. And mentors. Someone who's already achieved what you want to achieve. They can help you avoid common pitfalls and see opportunities you might miss. Don't have a mentor. Start by reading biographies of successful people in your field. Their stories become your first mentors. An accountability partner. Someone who checks in with you regularly and holds you to your commitments. This person isn't a cheerleader. They're a truth teller. Meet with them weekly, either in person or by phone, and share your progress and your challenges. Read to 5 people who support your vision and understand what you're trying to achieve. These are the people you call when you hit obstacles or need encouragement. Choose carefully. Enthusiasm is contagious, but so is doubt. There's something vital about support systems. It must be intentionally maintained. Schedule regular check-ins. Share your progress. Ask for specific help when you need it. Your support system is like a garden. It needs regular attention to flourish. They're living documents. Review and adjust yours every 30 days. What's working? What isn't? What have you learned that could help you move faster? The best plan is the one you'll actually follow. So make adjustments based on reality, not theory. Let me tell you about Maria, a woman I worked with in 1988. She had a dream of opening her own restaurant, but kept getting overwhelmed by all the details. We created a simple action plan. Every day she would complete one task related to her restaurant, no matter how small. Some days she just made a phone call. Other days she visited potential locations, but she never missed a day. 18 months later, she opened her doors. Today, she owns 3 successful restaurants. The power of an action plan isn't in its complexity. It's in its clarity and your commitment to following it. A simple plan executed consistently will always beat a perfect plan that's never started. Your plan doesn't need to be brilliant. It needs to be clear enough to follow and realistic enough to maintain. Let me tell you about the most expensive conversation I've ever had. In 1981, I sat with a man named William on his 65th birthday. He pulled out a yellowed piece of paper from his wallet, a business plan he'd written 30 years earlier. His hands shook as he unfolded it. "I carried this every day for 3 decades," he said, waiting for the right time to start. Now, retiring from a job he never loved, he realized the right time had been there all along. The cost of inaction isn't just about opportunities lost. It's about the life unlived, the potential unrealized, the dreams that slowly fade into regrets. It's the highest price you'll ever pay, and the payment is extracted in time, time you can never get back. Let me share another story that haunts me to this day. In 1976, I met 2 friends, Steve and Michael. Both had similar ideas for starting computer repair businesses. Steve started immediately, working evenings and weekends from his garage. Michael decided to wait until he had more money saved, better equipment, the perfect location. Today, Steve's company has offices in 3 states. Michael, he's still waiting for the perfect time. What most people don't understand about waiting, it has a compound effect, just like interest on a debt. Every day you wait, the cost grows larger. It's not just about the opportunities you missed today. It's about all the opportunities that would have sprung from taking action today. When you say, "I'll start tomorrow," you're not just putting off one day. You're giving up everything that day could have taught you. Every lesson, every connection, every small victory that could have led to bigger victories. All gone, never to return. I remember talking to a woman named Linda in 1984. She wanted to go back to school to become a lawyer. "I'll be 45 by the time I finish," she said, using age as her reason to wait. I asked her, "And how old will you be in 4 years if you don't go to law school?" The light in her eyes when she understood that truth, I'll never forget it. Today, she's one of the most successful attorneys in her state. The weight of regret has a special kind of gravity. It's heavier than fear, heavier than failure, heavier than any burden you'll carry by taking action. I've interviewed hundreds of people in their later years, asking about their regrets. Not one person told me they regretted trying and failing. Every single regret was about not trying at all. Here's something powerful I've noticed. The pain of inaction comes in waves. First, there's the subtle anxiety of knowing you're not moving toward your goals. Then comes the frustration of watching others succeed at what you dream of doing. Finally, there's the heavy regret of looking back on time wasted. Let me tell you about George, a talented musician. I met in 1979. He had a chance to join a touring band. The timing wasn't perfect. He had a steady job, a comfortable routine. He decided to play it safe and stay put. That band went on to sell millions of records. When I met George again in 1992, he couldn't even listen to the radio without thinking about what might have been. But here's the thing about these stories. They're not meant to sadden you. They're meant to wake you up. Right now, you're writing your own story. Every day you wait is a page filled with what if instead of what is. The most dangerous phrase in the human language is "there's always tomorrow." No, there isn't. Tomorrow is promised to no one. The only moment you can count on is right now. The only action that matters is the action you take today. I've learned that people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They look at the size of their dreams and think they need more time to prepare. But while they're preparing, life is passing. While they're planning, opportunities are vanishing. While they're waiting for perfect conditions, someone else is out there making imperfect progress. Remember, the cost of inaction isn't just measured in opportunities lost. It's measured in the person you could have become. Every time you choose an action, you're choosing to stay the same person you are today. Every time you choose action, you're choosing growth, learning, progress. The choice is always yours. But understand this, not choosing is still a choice, and it's usually the most expensive choice you can make. Every morning when you look in the mirror, you're not just seeing your present self, you're looking at your future self in the making. Every decision you make today is a gift or a burden you're sending to that person in the mirror tomorrow, next month, next year. Let me share something powerful I learned in 1980. I asked a room of 500 people to write a letter to themselves, dated 5 years in the future. One man, Richard, wrote about the business he dreamed of starting. 5 years later, he mailed me his letter with a note. I became the person I wrote about because I couldn't bear to disappoint him. Your future self is as real as your present self. The only difference is the choices you make today. Think about this. Every major success story started with someone who had the courage to be loyal to their future self. They made sacrifices their present self didn't want to make, so their future self could live a life their present self could only imagine. Here's a technique I've seen transform countless lives. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself 1 year from now. Make it vivid. What are you wearing? How do you carry yourself? What's different about your smile? Now imagine that version of you could send a message back to you today. What would they want to thank you for starting? What decisions would they be grateful you made? I remember talking to an Olympic athlete who used this technique every day, she told me. When I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. to train, I think about my future self standing on that podium. I don't want to let her down. She won gold in 1988. The medal, she said, wasn't won competition day. It was won on all those dark mornings when she chose her future self over her present comfort. There's something crucial about building your legacy. It's not about grand gestures. It's about daily choices that align with who you want to become. Every small action is a brick in the foundation of your future. When you make that extra call, read that extra chapter, take that extra step. You're not just doing tasks. You're building your legacy one choice at a time. The impact your actions today will have 3 generations from now. The business you start, the book you write, the lives you touch. These create ripples that continue long after you're gone. I've seen companies that started in someone's garage become institutions that employ thousands. I've watched ideas scribbled on napkins turn into movements that change lives. Your future self is waiting. They're hoping you'll be brave enough to take action today, counting on you to push through the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty. Every time you take action, you're sending a message to that future self. I believe in you. I'm willing to work for you. I'm committed to becoming you. The person you'll be in 5 years is determined by 2 things: the books you read and the people you spend time with today. Your future self is the product of your current choices. They will either thank you or blame you for decisions you make right now. The most powerful gift you can give your future self is the gift of action taken today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when conditions are perfect. Today. Right now, this moment. Because in the end, we all meet our future self. The only question is, will you be proud of the choices you made to become them? Right now, in this moment, you stand at a crossroads. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right here, right now. This is your moment of decision. In the years I've spent studying human potential, I've learned that life-changing moments don't announce themselves with fanfare. They come quietly, in simple decisions we make when nobody's watching. The power you hold in this moment is extraordinary. You have the ability to completely change the direction of your life with a single decision. Not by making grand plans, but by taking one single decisive action. That first step you've been thinking about, that move you've been considering, that change you've been dreaming of, the time is now. Time will pass anyway. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, that time will tick by whether you take action or not. The only question is, where will you be when it does? Will you be looking back at this moment with gratitude for the action you took, or regret for the action you postponed? The power to change your life doesn't lie in some distant future. It doesn't require perfect circumstances or divine intervention. It lives in the next 5 minutes, in the next action you take, in the decision you make right now. Stand up, take that first step, make that call, write that first word, start that business. Whatever your first step is, take it now. Not because you're ready, not because you're certain, but because this is your moment, and moments like these don't come back. We're members and reward people who have great ideas. It rewards people who act on them. Your time is now. Take that first step.